Chapter 6. Fractured Alliances. The streets of Vierne narrowed as they entered the city's oldest quarter, where the cobblestones were uneven and glossy with the day's mist. Faded banners hung from crooked poles, their colors muted to dusty grays and blues. The air smelled faintly of damp stone and the faint metallic tang of spell residue. They stopped before an archway almost hidden between two leaning buildings, carved from black stone veined with silver. The stone shimmered faintly, as though moonlight had been trapped inside. Lysara placed her palm against a sigil in the center. The silver veins lit up, racing outward in branching patterns, until the entire arch rippled like disturbed water. The sound of the city died instantly as they stepped through. The Etherkin enclave was a place apart. The first breath inside tasted faintly sweet, charged with the ozone bite of protective magic. Latticed walkways of clear crystal spanned channels of light water, a slow-flowing liquid that glowed from within, casting moving constellations across the vaulted ceilings. The ceilings themselves were webbed with wards etched in fine, looping script pulsing faintly like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. A group of robed attendants waited at the far end of the walkway. They wore layered garments of pale silk trimmed in silver, their hoods casting deep shadows over sharp, angular faces. Their eyes reflected the light water, opal-hued, shifting with the glow beneath. "Few outside the bloodlines have set foot here," Lysara said, her voice carrying the even tone of someone who knew this place intimately, and the guarded edge of someone who expected to be challenged. The attendants led them into the council hall of House Vane, a vast dome supported by slender columns of onyx and quartz. The floor was polished blackstone, so perfectly reflective it seemed they walked on a midnight sky. Overhead, the dome panels caught the glow from the light water channels, refracting it into shifting patterns that danced over the marble walls. 5 counselors sat in a crescent of high-backed chairs carved from living crystal. Each wore the ceremonial colors of their station, deep indigo robes, embroidered with silver filigree in the shape of branching constellations. The eldest, Marith, had hair like spun snow bound in a silver clasp, and eyes the pale green of old glass. Another counselor, younger, with skin the color of burnished bronze and sharp cheekbones, watched Lysara with an assessing gaze that held more challenge than welcome. Lysara approached, her own robes of midnight silk moving like poured ink around her. "The flux is not a distant threat," she began, voice resonant under the dome's perfect acoustics. "It is here, now, eating at the edges of the shroud. If we hesitate, there will be no turning back." Counselor Marith steepled her long fingers. "We have endured other disturbances. Yet the house has survived without dismantling its alliances over rumors." Lysara's eyes narrowed. "You've seen the wards flicker. You've read the instability in the East Quarter. This is not decay, it is intrusion. The Chronovants have allied with the flux, and they will not stop at the shroud." The younger bronze-skinned counselor leaned forward, his voice edged in derision. "You vanish for years, then return with talk of ancient enemies and demand we mobilize? What proof do you bring us, other than your word? If stability is built on ignoring cracks in the foundation," she said, voice as cold as the wards around them, "then it is only a matter of when it collapses." The tension in the hall was a living thing. The faint pulse of the wards seemed to sync with the taut silence. Even the light water's glow dimmed slightly, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Zirin drifted away toward the archives, drawn by a faint vibration from the shard at his wrist. The archive was a spiral chamber, the shelves curving like the inside of a seashell. Books bound in pale leather rested alongside glass spheres containing swirling holograms of history. The air here was cooler, smelling faintly of aged parchment and cedar oil. When his fingers brushed the page of an illuminated codex, the shard warmed against his skin. The ink on the page shimmered, rearranging itself into a precise diagram of the shard, annotated in flowing Etherkin script. "You found something you weren't meant to," Lysara said from behind him, her voice softer now. "You've been keeping things from me," Zirin replied. Her lips curved, but it wasn't quite a smile. "And you've been keeping things from me. Perhaps we're even." Before either could speak further, Silas appeared, their usual calm replaced with something rawer. Their short, dark hair was damp at the temples, eyes fixed somewhere distant. "The flux took my family," they said simply. "A Chronovant rift. I thought if I stayed away, I'd be safe. I was wrong." Silence stretched. The air felt heavier, as if the wards were listening. Then a sharp crack rang out, like glass breaking under water. The light water surged brighter. One of the younger counselors rose slowly, a smile tugging at his lips. "Forgive me," he said, "but my loyalty to House Vane does not bind me to your cause." From the rafters above, assassins dropped, cloaks fluttering like black wings, boots landing without a sound. Their faces were hidden behind smooth masks of dark glass. Zirin moved first, steel meeting steel in a flash that sent vibrations up his arm. Lysara's cords snapped out, wrapping an attacker's wrist before yanking them sideways into a marble column. Silas's voice rose in a sharp harmonic, the sound slicing through the air. The assassins faltered, staggered by the dissonance. The fight moved like a dance, Zirin anchoring the center, Lysara sweeping the edges with precise strikes, Silas destabilizing their foes with sonic bursts that left them disoriented. The metallic tang of blood and ozone mixed with the warm electric scent of overcharged wards. Within moments the attackers withdrew, melting back into the shadows. The wards sealed with a low hum, the hall returning to stillness, but not calm. A courier stumbled in, chest heaving, holding a crystal sealed with black wax. Lysara broke it, and a voice slid into the chamber, smooth, unhurried, and cold. "Bearer of the shard, bring it to me, or I will take it. The choice changes nothing." The crystal dissolved into mist, leaving behind a sigil glowing faintly in the air, the mark of the flux leader. The shard at Zirin's wrist pulsed in time with his heartbeat. The war was no longer distant. It had found them,